Happy 2015 to all my viewers. Thank you so much for following my videos, and I really appreciate all the great comments you guys have left me. And please subscribe to my channel. I'll have plenty of new videos for 2015. Today I want to talk to you about yet another guitar, and if you followed any of my older videos, you know how much I really like the new classic vibe Squire Telecaster series, and today I have another one for you. So I wanted to start 2015 by going over this great guitar, and this is yet another Squire from the classic vibe line, and I wanted just to go over this guitar for you, for anyone that is interested in this particular guitar. As you probably know, if you've been following this line, there are two basic types when it comes to this guitar. In the line, you have the butterscotch version, and you have this one, which is the bound version in rosewood instead of maple. So what's the difference between these two guitars? Well, first of all, I want to say how impressed I am once again by this line. I think that the Squire Classic Vibe line is such great value for the money. The guitars cost roughly under $500, let's say, with taxes. And you're getting a whole bunch for your money. This guitar, the first time I came across it, I kind of didn't really it didn't really click with me the first time I played it. The reason was not the guitar itself, but the setup. Unfortunately, the shop that I tried the guitar in hadn't done a proper setup on the guitar, and it didn't feel right to me. So I kind of let it go. I didn't buy that guitar at the time. And I bought the butterscotch version, which till today I love. I think it's a great guitar, and I really enjoy playing that guitar. Well, after a little while, I went back to another shop and came across this one again. And really it caught my eye mainly because of the looks. You know what they say, right? Looks, you kind of fall in love sometimes, and you see something on the shelf or on the rack and you can't help but play it. So I picked it up, I played it again, and I was really impressed. The setup this time was done really nicely, but it was really the wood on this guitar that caught my attention. And as you can see, it's got a great wood finish. The actual paint job is flawless. I mean, it looks like a mirror there. The back of it as well, super burst, not one blemish or anything like that on it. And so I really like the look of it. It reminds me a lot of the Andy Summers Telecaster, which unfortunately I can't afford. It's probably over $3,000, $3,500, and I can't really afford that one. So I thought this would kind of satisfy me and not break the budget. So I picked it up and I brought it home, and I wanted to give you my review on it after spending some time with it, just to give you some insight, and for anyone considering this guitar, to go over the points of the items which I do think are great, and maybe some items which can be improved. So the finish on this guitar looks like it's a one piece of wood, but I'm pretty sure this guitar is actually a veneer. I don't think that you're getting a solid piece of wood here. It's really hard for me to see any kind of glue joint, and for the lower end guitars in this price range, I'm pretty sure they're not making them with a one piece wood body, and it would probably cost way more, and I'm pretty sure that's not the case. So I have to check the specs on the website to be certain, but for those of you who might already know, please feel free to comment on my video and let me know if this is actually a one-piece body or not, and I'm pretty sure it's not. So you're getting a really nice body, as I mentioned. The hardware on the guitar is quite good. I have no complaints about the hardware. The neck is a nice rosewood board, fingerboard, very nice. No complaints about that. The headstock is finished in sort of a classic tint to make it look older. There's no skunk stripe in the back. The tuners are quite good. And you also have a neck plate here that also says Squire on it, as you can see. So the guitar itself plays very nicely. I don't have any issues. The frets on this guitar are not extremely large, but they're very comfortable to play. The inlays look like they're made of plastic. The nut itself looks like it's also made of the usual plastic that Fender uses on the guitars. Nothing extremely cheap, but it does the job. So the guitar overall is quite simple. Standard Telecaster layout, 2 pickups, bridge and neck pickup. Now here's where I had to make some changes on the guitar. When I took the guitar home, the funny thing about this particular guitar is that the tone of the guitar seems to be brighter than the other one. So if you look at the video that I made on my butterscotch, for some reason this guitar seems to have a little bit more top end sparkle, and I was actually surprised because it's got a rosewood neck, and typically guitars that have rosewood necks tend to be a little bit darker, and guitars that have maple necks seem to have a little bit more top end. But in this case it seemed to be different. It's not a bad thing. I just noticed that there is that tonal difference. So I looked at the pickups and I tried to find out if the pickups in this guitar were the same as the other one, the butterscotch version, and I couldn't really find that information. I think they are, but I'm not quite sure if maybe they might be using some different type of magnets. Instead of, you know, Alnico 2, they might be using Alnico 3, 4s or something like that. So that might have something to do with the tonal differences. The other thing I did not like particularly on this guitar was the saddles. The original saddles that come with this guitar are not brass. They're metal saddles and they have grooves in them. They look like screws basically. And the strings fall in between the grooves. It's sort of the vintage style version that Fender did use at some point, but I didn't really like that as much as the brass saddles. So I changed the brass saddles and installed them into this guitar, and now they have the same type of brass saddles that you have with the butterscotch version, and I like that better. It's a personal preference. Not that there was anything really wrong with the other ones, I just tend to prefer the brass saddles, and I changed them on this guitar. That's basically the only thing that I really did change. The electronics I didn't touch. The switch on this guitar is slightly different than the other one. It's got sort of this the top hat plastic grip, which is okay, but honestly I tend to prefer the round one that's on the butterscotch version, just because it takes a little bit less space, and I find it's a little bit further away from the knob, so when you're actually switching you don't have to, it's easier to grab in my opinion. But now this is really just me nitpicking. It's nothing that's going to make or break the sound of the guitar. It's just a little functionality, as well as the knobs. These are flat knobs, whereas the butterscotch version are a little bit rounded, and there's a nice taper to it. I think the knobs are a little bit, at least the volume knob in my particular case is a little bit more, gives a little bit more resistance. I tend to prefer a knob that's a little bit looser, just so that it's easier to work with and maybe to do swells with. But again, this is nothing that you can't adjust if it really bothers you. The neck on this guitar is very thin, So front to back, it's actually thinner than the neck on the butterscotch version. And that's something that some of you might not like. For me, it doesn't really bother me. I tend to feel that the butterscotch version is a little bit more comfortable. But I mean, it's not anything terrible. I just want to point it out to you guys, just in case you try this one without trying the butterscotch one and you think they're both the same. They're not. This one is actually thinner front to back. Okay, so keep that in mind. Tunability, no issues. The standard Fender type tuners work very well. I like the fact that you can just put the strings right into the center of the peg and then wrap it around. It really makes it neat, and you don't have sharp edges sticking out and poking your fingers and whatnot. It has the standard string T up here, and if you buy this guitar and it's set up properly, I'm telling you, you're going to have a really great guitar. If it's not set up properly, you can easily just do it yourself if you know how, or bring it to your favorite luthier to set it up for you. And you know, you should have years and years of playability with this type of guitar. Now, the only thing that I worry about when I look at a guitar like this, which is more of a budget guitar, and in the past Fender and Squire has used laminations for their bodies, and when you look at some of the older guitars, particularly the Fender, the Fender versions that are made in Japan, at some point they had some Japanese versions that had Floyd roses on them, and they had a photo flame finish. A lot of them, when you look at them on eBay these days, are cracked. And so I don't know if that's a defect that they experienced in those days and if they've improved it. But my worry is always that, you know, you might end up having some issues with the finish on these guitars. I hope not. I hope that the guitar will last a long time, because it really does look beautiful, and I really would hate to see anything happen to the finish, but you never know. Obviously, you want to take care of your guitar and you want to keep it in a well humidified environment where there's no big changes in temperature. That's the best option for these type of guitars, or any type of guitars for that matter, because obviously temperatures will change the wood grain structure and make it swell and contract, and that's where you get the cracking in the finishes, in the paint and whatnot. So you want to pay attention to that. The other thing I want to mention about the Squire Classic Vibe series is the hardware. The Pickguard is nice and thick. It's a 3-ply Pickguard. The binding is flawless. I looked at the edges where you normally would see any kind of defects, which is, you know, near the neck pocket on either side, and there's no issues there whatsoever. And so I think this guitar, like the other Squire Classic Vibe, it really is a fantastic buy. So I want to follow up this video with some sound clips for you all so you can hear the difference. And maybe I can compare both of them side by side for you so you can actually hear the tonal differences between the different woods that they're using there. So please give me your comments on this guitar. Let me know if you have any questions that you would like me to answer. And stay tuned, because I'll have other great videos for you and reviewing other great gears in terms of amplifiers, guitars, and effects pedals. So if you haven't subscribed, please do.